waiting for the devil to take my soul. He was all I wanted, now I'm alone. Waiting for the devil to take my soul. He was all I wanted, now I'm alone. Waiting for the devil to take my soul.
Hey everybody, welcome to Apocalypse Rising. Thanks for tuning in. Decided I'd do a video early this morning. I haven't gotten anything out this week and I've been super busy. I worked late last night, so I figured I could go into work a little bit later and see what I can get done. I'm not really a morning person, so we'll see how this goes. But before we get started, I'd just like to have a moment of silence for Edge of Discord. Seems like Andrew just keeps running into problems, and especially with his internet, he's having a real hard go trying to get everything up and running over there. So he decided to kind of just take a break from it until he could get everything situated. And that's a shame because he's got everything lined up there to make that a very successful endeavor. So hopefully he doesn't let these hurdles get in his way and he can kind of overcome those things and be successful in the end. I think that's the story of our lives. So what I think I'm going to do is I've been working on a little website, and this was something we were doing over at Edge of Discord as well, but that's not even up and running at the moment. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try to make a website and see what I could do for relatively cheap, if not completely free, because that's kind of how I operate, really. I'm cheap. I do all my editing. Everything I use just free software. So I've heard of Google Sites. I've used it before in the past for assignments at school, and I thought, let's see if I could make kind of like a news outlet type of website here on Google Sites. So this is what I came up with. It's called End Times News, Apocalypse Rising, your source for all things news related as it pertains to end times. And everything's updated daily. You can shop End Times, which is cool because when you click on it right now, I've got a sponsor, Maskia, and this is Andrew's business here where he's selling masks. So if you're interested in buying inexpensive masks that are very effective, check out this website and make an order. It's made in America and it's real comfortable masks. So give that a look if you're interested. I also have here headline news. So these are live updates. Here you can go to Worldometer. You can see all the coronavirus cases and deaths. You can go to CNN Business and see the live stock market. You can go here. This is like endtimesprophecy.org. And this website really outlines all the mass extinctions that are going on. And then I have a little area here for breaking news, which I update frequently. Here we've got Donald Trump. I think his case got shot down by the Supreme Court. So he's going to have to try to take some alternative avenues other than through the law. I think at this point, we'll see what happens next. Then I've got a little area here for top stories. I'm really interested in science. I think science is a double-edged sword. So I've got a few different kind of articles in here, robot dogs, quantum computer supremacy, those monoliths that we've all been hearing about. And then, of course, climate, everything that I talk about here, war, politics, economy, and health. I mean, in the end, my channel will cover all these things. Right now, we're just really focusing on climate. These are updated. I update 2 or 3 of these a day. At least one in each category will be updated. And then I have some videos down here. These are just YouTube videos. So we've got some news on the climate. We've got some news on war. The nightly news broadcast will be updated every day. And then I watched Gregory Mannarino. I think he's got a really good position on the economy, and he makes a lot of money in the stock market. So if you're interested in following him, I suggest you watch his videos. I upload his morning video and his afternoon video here. And then I'm going to have some archives. This is where I'm going to start putting the older articles and other articles. I mean, I have tons of articles. I'm just going to start shoving them in here into the archives. I just haven't quite figured out how I'm going to organize that. And then I've got a little area over here for my YouTube stuff. This is where you can come see my videos. You can subscribe to my channel. This is a little description of the videos. I even have an oldie but a goodie. So this is something that's not released on my actual channel. You'd have to come to the website to check this out. But this is circa 2016. So it's pretty rough, but I think it's really pertinent because I'm talking about permafrost and the release of methane 4 years ago. They were confused about it. So go check that out if you're interested. And then you can follow me on Twitter. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I do have a Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter right now. I'm just posting nothing but climate change stuff. So that's a little bit about my website. If you're interested in checking it out, it's apocalypse-rising.com. I'll leave a link in the description, but like I said, this is Google's site. I connected a domain name to it, so far I've spent $11 on this, and I think it looks pretty good. It definitely scales well. You can see it on your cell phone. It looks really nice on pretty much any kind of window. So for free, I'm not complaining at all. So with that being said, let's look and see if we can actually find an article from this site to go over. I'm interested in, let's see, lab-grown meat. We haven't really talked about this. I'll make it quick, so this isn't a super long video, but I've been interested in lab-grown meat for a long time. It wasn't too long ago that they came up with hamburger in a petri dish, basically, and they grew a hamburger in a lab, and then the scientists ate it, and everything was fine, and it was super expensive. But now the price has come down a lot, and they've been able to do other meats now in the lab. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at, oh boy, this one's called treehugger.com. I can see it now. I'm going to get flamed. But the title of this article is, Are There Problems with Lab-Grown Meat? I'm sure there are, but there's problems with everything. Nothing is a silver bullet. I keep seeing that word. Is it a silver bullet? No, nothing's a silver bullet. It's going to be a combination of a bunch of different things, and this may just be part of the equation. So let's see what this article has to say. It's cool technology, but sometimes a simpler solution is all that's needed. Okay, let's see what their idea of a simpler solution is. I'm very interested in that. The recent announcement that lab-grown meat has been approved for sale in Singapore is being described as a victory for scientific innovation, animal welfare, human health, and environmentalism. So if you're not familiar, the reason that scientists are trying to develop this meat in a lab is because agriculture really plays a huge role in climate change. It's not just cow farts, so let's get over it. It does have to do with methane that comes from the animals, but we also log, we have to provide them with feed, which we have to grow, which uses fertilizers, then we have to transport it, then we slaughter the animals, then we transport the animals, and we have to refrigerate it and freeze it, and all those things take carbon emissions, and it starts to add up really quickly. So to think of an alternative solution being lab-grown meat, it's very intriguing. It is a truly impressive feat, the production of edible meat from cells that doesn't harm a single animal in the making. So the way they do this is they actually just take a cell, like from a cow, and they put it in a petri dish, and they do their magic. Breakfast! And basically they grow this type of meat in a petri dish from the cell. And so you don't have to slaughter any animals. You don't have to feed any animals. All you have to do is get a cell, and it grows from a cell into a burger or a chicken wing or whatever you want it to be. But could there be problems with it? Might all the enthusiasm be a bit premature? I mean, that depends on who you ask. For me, I think this is great. And we'll go through here. Oh, here we go. Some people are not convinced that lab-grown meat is the silver bullet solution that many would like it to be. I swear I've seen this word 15 times this week, and it's only Wednesday. In a 2019 article for Slate, food chemist and molecular biologist Christy Spackman challenges the whole idea of improving food on a molecular level. Sure, many great have come out of this kind of research, such as the discovery of vanillin and the usefulness of vitamin supplementation to reduce disease, but it's not necessarily a beneficial thing always to view food as something that can be deconstructed, tinkered with, and put back together in a new improved version. I don't really get the connection here, honestly. I don't know what fortifying food and discovering these flavors and whatnot have to do with growing meat in a petri dish, because when it's all said and done, it's just meat. There's really nothing different about it. These improved or functional foods, while they may have longer shelf lives and boosted health properties and more intense flavor, come with a higher price tag. This means they're only accessible to those who can afford to buy them. Well, obviously, I mean, that goes without anything. I mean, everything costs money, so we can't really avoid that. And from my understanding, when they made the hamburger the first time, it was like $100,000 for this hamburger, and now they've gotten it down to like $7. So the last time I checked, I was paying about $7 for a hamburger if I went out and got one. So, and right now during the coronavirus, meat has just skyrocketed. So, I mean, are people dying because they can't eat? That happens all day, every day. Maybe we can look at this as a way to feed people rather than keep it from them. I don't understand. We're jumping right into the negative here with this. And while cellular agriculture, so I guess that's what this is called, cellular agriculture, does not make the same claims about health that these functional foods do. Okay, so here's why I don't really care about your argument earlier. There's no correlation here.
You stupid.
Spackman writes that it does operate on the same assumption that industrial research and production assemblage go hand in hand with access to clean, environmentally friendly meat. I don't know who made that assumption. I certainly didn't. But that doesn't mean that that is something that's more difficult to overcome than, say, convincing people who've been eating meat heavy diets for generations to start eating nothing but vegetables. That is more a pie in the sky solution than just going ahead and making meat in a lab, and then people could just buy that instead of using cows. So let's see if this gets any better, because so far it's not looking too good for the argument against it. This ends up being expensive and thus inaccessible to less privileged members of society. Well, it's only expensive because of probably the business side of things. So let's just get that clear. The research and development, I can assure you, the price in that has come down from $100,000 a burger to $7. So the cost is not exponentially expensive because of the actual process. It's mainly because of businesses who want to profit off of it. She says, we find the same far-flung supply chain and base materials that rely on petrochemical extraction, and we see once again a divide between who can even produce these foods, let alone get access to them. Okay, so I mean, you've got an argument here with producing these foods. I mean, if we start producing them in labs, farmers aren't going to be, well, I guess it would be ranchers in this case. They aren't going to be the ones producing the food anymore. So, we have to take that into consideration. But I think it's interesting when people want to use that argument that, oh, the ranchers will lose their job and their livelihood and they'll die, and it's like, okay, well, let's just think about switchboard operators. Okay, we used to have to take little plugs and switch on this board to make phone calls, and so we don't do that anymore. And those people didn't just die and shrivel up because they lost their jobs.
21.
So that is not a valid argument. The production of it will be controlled. So we're starting to talk about now business models and I guess policies that we need to look at rather than changing people's entire perspective on diet.
Breakfast.
Author Jenny Kleeman has a similar take, writing that developing cellular agriculture deepens our reliance on remote corporations with highly specialized technology to meet our basic needs. Yeah, but it wouldn't be very difficult to revert back. It's not like all of a sudden there's not going to be any way to ranch or farm. Okay, it's not going to completely eliminate it. It's just going to be the bulk of where we get our meat from. Okay, so this is a little far-fetched in my opinion. Not necessarily something that we should be encouraging, particularly when COVID-19's grocery store shortages highlighted just how dependent we already are on distant supply chains. Yeah, but that has to do with growing things, slaughtering things, and transporting things. If we had these labs localized, and let's say in a perfect world, they were run off of solar power and wind power, so they weren't emitting carbon emissions. The whole plant was run off of green energy, and it was producing meat. And it's going to be in phases so that you'll always have some that's ready to go, and it's local. You don't have to worry about all this supply chain stuff that you're complaining about. In an article for The Guardian, Kleeman raises doubts about Eat Just's decision to seek approval in Singapore rather than the United States. This is interesting. They did that because obviously Singapore doesn't have the same rules as the FDA, so it's easier to get it approved over there. But it's actually kind of a good way to start, because you can see how successful it's going to be. I mean, obviously there's some risk that maybe they've jumped the gun and there might be some negative consequences, but that comes with everything. The rush to release the chicken bites before the fetal bovine serum feedstock was phased out in favor of a plant-based alternative is also questionable. So now they're even questioning like Impossible Meats, which if you haven't tried one of those, honestly, I don't eat it a lot, but I had one of the Whoppers. It tasted exactly like a Whopper. So the issue with this plant-based stuff is people don't understand how plant-based agriculture also negatively affects the planet. So it's not like a salve here to just say everybody needs to be a vegan.
Gay!
And, you know, I really despise that argument. And I don't really even eat that much meat. I maybe eat meat 3 or 4 times a week. And I just think that whole argument that, oh, you could just turn into a vegan is more unrealistic, honestly, than coming up with a lab run off of green energy that produces meat that doesn't pollute the planet and people can still eat meat. We need to get into that mindset that if we want to tackle this problem, we can't be making these huge drastic societal changes up front, because then it's never going to get done. We need to kind of put those things in as we move along so that at the end we've got everything in place, right? To just throw all this in the trash and say, oh, well, you need to become a vegan, and if you don't want to eat nothing but beans and vegetables, then the world is doomed. So yes, we eat far too much meat in developed countries, and we produce it in unethical, even dangerous ways. It's this producing it part. If we could just do it in a lab, I think that's a solution to this. We don't need antibiotics, none of that stuff. But we can fix that more rapidly and effectively by eating less meat. No, we can't. Buying better quality meat when we do, ideally from small scale farmers. So like I said, if we could make these labs local, that would eliminate the big scale major corporation idea. And produce our own meat and vegetables, prioritizing other forms of nourishment like vegetables, beans, lentils, and whole grains. I mean, give me a break. How many people are just going to go ahead and switch over? We've been able to do that for years and years now, since the beginning of time, and we don't do that. So it's generations of people. You think you're going to be able to switch them over to vegans in time to save the planet?
You want him to do you so much you could do anything?
I highly doubt it. But if you can just, you know, pump out lab grown meat and satisfy you know, our desire to eat steaks and hamburgers and chicken wings, then I think that's a far better solution. I've written before about band-aid solutions being highly appealing because they don't challenge people to change their behaviors. Yeah, that's what phase we're in. I'm not saying that this is good or bad. What I'm saying is we're in the phase where challenging people to change their behaviors is the most difficult option. Believe it or not, it's the most difficult and time-consuming option than to just continue what we're doing, but change how we do it. And I think it goes on here to talk about plastics and stuff like that. And it's, you know, we've always had reusable containers that we could take our food to work and school and stuff in and then come home and wash it, but we don't do that. Why?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
So you want to try to change the mentality before the demise of our civilization due to climate change? Get out of here.
He needs some milk.
The same goes for the meat issue. The push for cellular agriculture wouldn't be so strong if it weren't for the disastrous meat production system that has been established over the past half century. So you want to change something that's been established over the past half century in, 5 years? I don't think so. Cell-based meat is a fascinating invention without a doubt, and it will be interesting to see the role it plays in society going forward. But let's not be too quick to assume it can fix everything. No one's saying it can fix everything, but it sure can make a dent in it. Or that we can evade taking responsibility for our own actions that have created the problem cell-based meat is trying to repair. Yeah, this is one of those kind of articles where it almost feels like it was a setup to try to convince you that going vegan is the way to be. And what they say about vegans.
Daniel?
So that's all I have to say about this article. I personally do think lab-grown meat is a solution. So I'm going to give this one a base hit. If we can make this happen and produce it with green energy, we're going somewhere here in terms of reducing carbon emissions from agriculture. And I'm sticking with that. So now we actually have a base hit. We got off of home plate here. We've got 2 strikes, 2 foul balls,
These nuts.
and a base hit. So we still haven't discovered any home runs. Something that I've been seeing on my phone that's interesting is hydrogen power. I haven't really looked into that. I think that'll probably be the next thing that we discuss. So hopefully everybody has a good day and a good rest of the week. I'll try to get another video out a little bit later this week. And check out the website if you're interested in seeing what's going on with that. And with that, we'll talk to you next time.
Dip, dip, potato chip. Dip, dip, potato chip. Dip, dip, potato chip. Dip, dip, potato chip. Dip, dip, potato chip.